Good evening and welcome to The Right Side, the show where we talk about today's news, views, trends, and opinions from an admittedly conservative perspective. I'm your host, Chris Pareja, and this evening we're joined by Kurt Schlichter. He's an author, a regular contributor at many media outlets. He is an attorney, a reformed comedian, and he's here to share a little bit this evening about his experiences in life.
Well, thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure being back in the homeland because I grew up here in the Bay Area,
right?
And it's nice to be around a bunch of unrepentant liberals. So thanks for bringing me back from when you live in L.A. like I do. There's only one place you go if you want more liberals.
North.
Thanks for bringing it. Thank you.
Well, we won't out you so that you can enjoy the experience as you're roaming the streets of the Bay Area until you go back.
There's nothing like being a place where people go, Bernie Sanders, I don't know, seems a little conservative. I don't know if he's really solid.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that. So how did you do it? How did you become a conservative in the Bay Area of all places and then migrate to L.A. for a break?
Well, I got out of San Mateo back in 1983 when I went to UC San Diego because I thought I was going to be a journalist, and I thought they had a journalism program, but they really had a communications program, which is different, but I didn't know that, so I went there and ended up getting a communications and political science degree, which naturally meant I had to eventually become a lawyer.
That's a clean path.
Yeah. Well, there was a little bump in the road. I enlisted in the Army, went to officer candidate school, went to Germany, went to Desert Storm, and after Desert Storm, I came back and went to law school in L.A.
Okay.
I was a conservative since 1972, I think, when Nixon was running against that leftist twit McGovern. And I remember being in second grade at Highland School up in San Mateo, and all the other kids were going, McGovern, McGovern, McGovern. I was going, pinko. Damn commie. Nope, not having any of it.
And it was that young.
I was that young. And this was all me. Now, my parents were conservative. They're conservative. But, I struck my own path. I saw all the nitwits were going left. I said, I'm going right.
Right.
I'm on the right.
And so, and then from that, you went and you did the communications thing. And then,
yes.
and then the military.
And then the military, largely to annoy my professors. We were surrounded by leftists at UC San Diego. That was when the term political correct was being invented, really. We were using it. We were doing things. I was on a conservative paper there, the California Review, and we would do things like take pictures of ourselves with pictures of politically correct Coors beer, because apparently the Coors heir was giving money to right-wing causes. So he was like, no, you can't drink Coors. So I would use my fake ID and go get a ton of Coors. And I would drink nothing but Coors just to tick them off. And that's, so I kind of learned at a young age, you got to get in their faces. You got to fight. You can't take the kind of guff. Is guff a word?
Guff is a word.
You can't take
I can even spell it, probably.
I think it ends with a PH, but we're
no
getting on a tangent there. The thing is, I learned early on, these guys have a glass jaw, Chris. Mm-hmm. These social justice warriors, as they call them now, and they were there back in the 80s, they're punks, they're babies, they're wimps, they're losers. And when you get in their face and say, hey, everything you believe is stupid and so are you, and your girlfriend's ugly, what are they going to do? Pinch you? They just start crying. And it's a shame more people don't do that. But, in the last few years, we've started to do it. And I think people like Andrew Breitbart really showed that if you get in there and fight for what you believe in, you can make a difference. And I think the last 6-7 years as conservatism has grown, and it's become more muscular. It used to be a bunch of, I've got a bow tie and I've never kissed a girl kind of conservatives.
Right.
Dork cons. And they have their place. If you want a policy on health care, you go to a guy with a bow tie. If you want to win the battle in the political sphere or the cultural sphere, you need to find someone who knows how to throw a punch.
Right.
And that's kind of how I came up. And that's why I felt so comfortable with Andrew. And I think Andrew has really energized the conservatives in a lot of ways. If you go on Twitter, for instance, you see a lot of people there fighting back, setting a standard, throwing down a marker, not taking the guff.
Which, Jim?
We have to be guff-free as conservatives.
Yeah.
And leftists really don't know how to handle it.
When you hit back.
When you hit back. They're like morally offended.
Right.
Well, you can't tell me I'm wrong when I say America is a racist society. Sure I can. Sure I can. The only racially diverse people you know are the ones cleaning your house, you hypocritical, leftist, rich kid, trustafarian twit. And then they start crying and they go away. And people watching who understand hypocrisy and knew it was all baloney anyway, they start going, wow, somebody else is thinking like me.
Right.
Somebody else is saying what I've always thought, but I've been afraid to say.
Well, and we're starting to see some of that now for the people who are going aggressively against Ben Carson, as an example, who said that anybody who was against Obama was a racist. That's the same kind of thing. And now you point out that Ben Carson, if you don't like him, maybe you're a racist, and people are being defriended everywhere.
I point that out all the time. First of all, I have no friends. I'm a conservative. I have lots of Twitter followers, and I do point that out. And I think, in fact, when you talk about Ben Carson, it's absolutely true, because there is nothing liberals hate more than the idea of a free-thinking, accomplished, conservative, Christian, American who is black and doesn't need them. He didn't ask their permission to be who he is. He didn't get a subsidy. He didn't have anything handed to him. He did it himself. He owes the liberal elite nothing, and they hate that.
And if you go back to his story, and it wasn't that he started out with a silver spoon.
No.
He built it from scratch.
He did build this. We've all built this. You know, I started a law firm in the 90s after I got out of law school. And, you know, we're adding lawyers, and I can walk through and I can see, you know, we have one lawyer's pregnant, others bring their babies in. We're supporting families about the hard work we did. It was me and another guy, 812 square feet, not sure if we're going to make payroll the next month. You know, even for ourselves, and there were months I went out getting paid. I didn't build that. The hell I didn't. Right. And I think that was directed by Barack Obama at the kind of people that we as conservatives really feel at home with, which is small business people, people who are creating their lives, creating their families, and living their lives normally, building things in their communities, in the business world. And he just hates that. And that's why he said, you didn't build that, because he wants to take away what we are.
Right.
And we said no. And that was the Tea Party. The Tea Party was a giant, hey, Barack Obama, we did build this. It's ours, and I'll be damned if you're going to take it.
Right. Yeah, it's the beginning of the building of class warfare. A lot of the indicators were there as he started to come up through the ranks, but definitely he's accelerated it.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And, you know, the funny thing is for people in need, what we're selling is what they need. Nobody is ever going to give you enough to make you happy. You can earn enough to make yourself happy, but you can never be given enough, because you're always going to want more. And as for rich people with this weird sense of guilt and obligation, who feel that the only way to expunge their personal sins is by making people like you and me suffer. Because do you think people pay as much as we do in taxes? They don't. I know they're accountants. They do not.
Right.
Okay? They do not.
But it makes them feel better about complaining about it.
They feel so good.
Yeah.
You know, hey, none of you guys can have plastic grocery bags because of the global warming. I mean, cooling. I mean, climate change. Wait, was it today? I didn't get the memo.
Right.
Which was printed on recycled paper. You got to understand a couple basic principles. You have to understand everything liberals say is a lie. Every single thing. Now, a lot of them don't come out and want to lie. You know, some of them are decent people at some level, but they embrace an ideology that, taken to its extremes, means mass graves and slavery. Now, I'm a little biased. I was in West Germany trying to hold the Russians back in the late 80s, and then I served in Kosovo during Operation Enduring Freedom in the mid-2000s after 9/11. And I walked through the ruins of socialism. I saw what it was. I spent a lot of time in Ukraine with the army, training Ukrainian soldiers. And I saw what socialism did there. And I married a woman who escaped from Cuba with her family. Her grandfather, for saying Castro is bad, spent 20 years in jail. I know what socialism is. I know where liberalism ends. And maybe liberals aren't thinking that, you know, well, down the road, we're going to shoot you if you don't do what we say. you do see things like attacking the Citizens United decision, which was basically where astonishingly 4 of 5 Supreme Court justices said, yes, the government has the power to ban a filmmaker from making a film that is critical of Hillary Clinton, if you can wrap your mind around that. And liberals want to get rid of that ruling. They think it's okay for the government to say, no, you can't make a film critical of Hillary Clinton. Another step towards what liberalism is, because liberalism is not about individuals. It's not about autonomy. It's not about us deciding how we want to live our lives. It's not about our controlling our futures. It's about them controlling our futures. And it's always them. It's always an elite telling us what to do for our own good, for their, to make themselves feel better. It's a giant psychodrama. Except the problem is, to make people conform, you gotta up the force. First you yell at them, and then you nag them, and then you fine them, and then, well, we got to put him in jail, and then eventually he's just not conforming. Maybe you ought to beat the heck out of him. He just won't give in. Well, now we got to get rid of him.
Firing squads got
for the good.
Yeah. For the greater good.
For the greater good, and that is what happens. And they will cry and whine and deny, but that's the logic of it. The logic of what we're about freedom, about individual choice, about the rights that God gave every human being that the Constitution merely acknowledges. The Constitution gives us no rights, of course. It acknowledges rights that every human being has. We can't go in that direction because there's nothing for us to make people conform to, except leaving other people the hell alone.
That's the height of evil right there. Leave people alone?
Yeah, I mean, imagine that. They might just make bad choices. And bad choices are so important, Chris.
For learning.
Exactly. Consequences are great. This is why I support hunger, cold, sickness. Because when people are hungry, cold, and sick, they tend to learn, gosh, perhaps I should do things that are inconsistent with being hungry, cold, and sick. Like, I don't know, work. Okay? When I had 3 jobs, I was run a law firm and writing and a reserve Army officer, and raising a family and contributing to my community. I was busy, but I didn't care.
Right.
Because, you do what you have to do. And then you look at other people going, I don't really feel like getting up today. But I do feel like you giving me free money. That's...
that doesn't get old. Having other people giving the money.
But it just becomes more pathetic and soul-crushing. Have you ever met anybody, really? I expect statistically there have to be a few people who are okay. But, is there any... Why do rich kids, the young people from rich families, almost inevitably turn out to be human train wrecks? Look at the Kennedy kids. Is there one of them that you would leave alone with your teenage daughter or without locking the liquor cabinet? I mean, there really isn't. It's just when everything's handed to you, when you have no sense of achievement, there's nothing to do but fill it with sensation, whether that's alcohol or drugs or, various debauched decadence. And hey, look, I'm an LA lawyer. I love decadence as much as
And debauchery.
And
probably.
debauchery.
Yeah.
I love debauchery. That's actually my new acoustic folk hipster, band. We're down at the Common Grounds Coffee House. I'll give you that flyer for the open mic. But, when your life is empty, you fill it with nonsense.
Right.
My life was never empty. I know you've got a family, you've got a job. Your life's not empty.
Right.
You're not out doing crazy things. I mean, statistically, some people will do crazy things. And I'm sure there are rich people who do wonderful things, rich kids, statistically. But, if you're going to stack the deck against your kid, give him everything he wants. You drive up 101 and you make a right at 92. You'll go to the Foster City Carl's Jr. That's where, Colonel Kurt Schlichter, Esquire, named partner of the law firm, started out in this horrible orange suit, making $3.10 an hour mopping out toilets.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad I'm not mopping out toilets anymore.
But you had to start somewhere.
I thank God every day that I started out doing a job I hated.
Did you make $15 an hour to start there, though, so it was a living wage?
I did not.
Was it more like $2 or $3 an hour?
It was $3.10 an hour back in 1981. In fact,
now you make more than that. Is that what you're telling me?
I make slightly more.
Okay.
But fortunately, it was very useful when I married my wife, who, as I said, is a legal immigrant from Cuba. By the way, conservatives, we hate immigrants, which is why I married one.
I did too.
Yeah, nuts, huh? When we got married and she said, hey, you've got to spend 3 months' salary on your ring, I said, great, I'm going to pick the months.
Right.
And they're going to be
Early career.
April, May, and June of 1981. So, I essentially got her a bottle cap with a hole in it.
I headed straight for that little vending machine at the beginning of the grocery store, quarter in hand, and laid it out. Yeah.
I didn't really want to put down the quarter. That's a good play. That was a good play.
It's silver colored.
It's silver.
The quarter was. The ring.
Funny story. I'm cheapest guy on earth. Because I earned everything, I don't want to spend. So
you take more care when you earn
it?
Oh, that's
Isn't that crazy?
Nutty.
So I'm in my Army dress blue uniform. I'm a major at the time. We got my chaplain up there. Beautiful wedding, all military guys, and I'm up there with my wife. And Chaplain Boyd says, Major Schlichter, would you give your bride the ring? I said, sure thing. And I hand it to her, and the diamond's all sparkling. And she looks at it, and she goes, no, the ring. She goes, where's the ring? I said, there's the ring. It's got the diamond. There it is. She goes, no, the wedding ring. I said, that is the wedding ring. She goes, no, that's the engagement ring. And, of course, everyone's looking. And I said, what's an engagement ring? So so she goes, we're just going to sit and smile, and you're going to put the engagement ring on me. But there's a happy ending.
But you told her the long-term lease still counts even afterwards. You can't give the ring back. It's not over.
Well, 10 years later, I did, in fact, get her a wedding ring, too. So, Merry Christmas, honey. Yeah. This year, it's not a vacuum. It's a ring.
Yeah,
no, like I said,
appliances for Christmas. That's also something dangerous.
I'm a paratrooper. I got a patch for 2 tours, but I'm not stupid. Okay, my wife's Cuban. She once said, "Kurt, you don't own enough guns
or bulletproof vests."
Yeah. Well, now how hot is that though, honey? You need to buy some more firearms. Wow. That should be like in a letter to conservative penthouse. I never thought it could happen to me, but my wife once said so.
Yeah, indeed. So you've alluded a little bit to, at least I sense that you have a passion about things like freedom of speech.
I love freedom of speech. I take it very seriously that I took an oath to defend our Constitution. And especially with it being Veterans Day tomorrow, I'm very proud. I was honored to serve not only as an American soldier, but as a leader. And I eventually reached the rank of colonel. It's the greatest honor I'll ever have. And that oath, now I retired from active service after 27 years, active and reserve service last January. But that oath I took to protect our Constitution never expires. And I think it's incumbent on every American to understand how important the principles that the Constitution recognizes are, the rights that it enshrines within it. I've been to places where you aren't free. I've been to places where people were scared. I've been to places where, until we got there, people were being shot down in the street. The world is an ugly, dangerous place full of bad people. And we need to understand that this idyllic paradise that we're in, and that's what the Bay Area is. That's what California is. This is paradise. Yeah, I'm annoyed by the liberals running it. But at the end of the day, I'm, at least for the next few years, nobody's going to knock on my door and drag me off and put a bullet in my head because I'm saying the wrong things. We need to protect those things. We can't give an inch. The First Amendment, you shall not the right of free speech shall not be infringed. The right to worship as you see fit or not worship shall not be infringed. And we need to honor the rights of conscience of people who may feel differently than we do. Second Amendment forms the basis of all other rights. A person who is unable to defend himself, his family, his community, and his Constitution is not a citizen. He's a subject. The Second Amendment is the foundation every other right is built on, and every attack on that is an attack on every right.
And so, but let's go back to the first one. I don't disagree with what you're saying on either of them because I like to practice both of them regularly. But more importantly, people, they don't understand how our First Amendment rights are being chipped away. I mean, you're an attorney, means words are your living,
yes.
and you're an author and a contributor to many news media outlets, also places where words have meaning and are important. Talk to us about your perspective on where you believe the attacks on our First Amendment are coming from.
Well, I think, first of all, we have somebody in the White House who does not believe in the First Amendment. And I don't say that, flippantly. I think he believes that his vision of progress is more important than some mere citizen being able to see what he wants to say if it gets in the way. You look at this, limitations on freedom of speech shrouded in this gauzy aura of campaign finance reform. Oh, we're just taking money out of politics. Baloney. You're taking politics out of politics because you don't want politics. You want conformity, and you want obedience, and you want silence from anyone who disagrees. So we're seeing attacks there. On college campuses, we see these goose-stepping little Trustafarian fascists screaming that college needs to be a safe place where they're protected from ideas. And it is incumbent on every single one of us to look at them and tell them to go to hell. College is never going to be a safe space. Your feelings mean nothing. Zero. Nil. In fact, your feelings are stupid and wrong. Your ideas are bad. And here are the following reasons why. It's important that they be confronted. It's important that they be told no. I guess maybe they had these, Weasley helicopter parents who gave them participation trophies. I don't see your kids getting those. Mine aren't getting them either. All I can say looking at them is, well, someday your kids will work for my kids. But the last thing I'm going to do is let them set the agenda. And you watch somebody like the University of Missouri president resign because they told him to. If I had the football coach who made $4 million a year pulling that nonsense, I would have said, hey, civil disobedience, very important. Great tradition. I respect your standing for your principle. And when you stand for principles, it's meaningless unless it costs something, right? So I'm going to help you out. And I'm going to invest it with significance. Coach, if your team's not practiced and on the field Saturday, you're in breach of your contract and you're fired. If you have a scholarship and you're not practiced and on the field Saturday, yes. Your scholarship is gone. The rest of you, you're cut from the team, and we're going to forfeit the rest of the year. If you want to stand on principle, that's what standing on principle is. And maybe you're right and maybe you're wrong, but you're going to stand. But if you're going to stand for your principle, you're going to take the consequences. And I ain't going nowhere.
And that would be freedom of speech.
That would be freedom of speech. And they'd all probably cry and start yelling safe space, rape culture. Mommy never told me someone would disagree with me.
So you're saying that out in the real world, freedom of speech means that sometimes people are going to disagree with you.
Yes.
Crazy.
It's astonishing.
Crazy.
It's painful. It's funny how they get offended by it, too. I'll be on Twitter, once in a while, and, you get these people saying, I can't believe you're saying this about our president. Our president, he works for me. He's a freaking employee. And he's doing a subpar job. And I am going to counsel him in order to assist him in performing his tasks better. Because, again, he works for me. I don't work for him. I owe him respect. I owe the office respect. I don't owe him respect. He owes me respect because I'm his boss. I'm an American citizen. And nothing, nowhere, no how outranks an American citizen.
Well, if people want more information about you, to catch your rants, or to throw darts back, they can reach you.
You better go to Twitter. Twitter is at KurtSchlichter.com.
Or at Kurt Schlichter, not .com.
I'm sorry, at Kurt Schlichter on Twitter.
Okay, excellent.
At Kurt Schlichter, you find my Twitter, and that will lead you to my town hall stuff and my IJ stuff and my Federalist stuff and my various rants.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for sharing with us, Kurt. If you'll hold on for just a moment, we'll be back after a word from our underwriters, the Conservative Forum.
The Conservative Forum of Silicon Valley began with 20 conservatives meeting at a restaurant in November of 2003. Our mission is to promote the principles of American liberty through education. By 2012, we had grown to over 600 paid members. Our monthly meetings feature well-known and prestigious conservative speakers addressing issues that are critical to our country's very survival. This includes speakers like Victor Davis Hanson, Andrew Breitbart, David Horowitz, and many others. In addition to our monthly meetings, we sponsor a conservative local cable access TV show, The Right Side, covering today's topics. Our Constitution discussion group not only teaches the Constitution, but started our annual essay contest that awards 2 $1,000 scholarships to local high school seniors. We are a virtual clearinghouse for grassroots organizations by providing them with table space at no charge in our exhibit area. There are typically a dozen groups represented. If you are like-minded, join us at our next meeting and become motivated and empowered. Liberty, made in America.
And welcome back to The Right Side. That was a word from our underwriters, the Conservative Forum. We appreciate them tremendously. They make the show possible, and we just found out tonight they'll be making next season possible too, so we're thankful again. But we are just one of the things that the Conservative Forum does. The thing that they're best known for is their speaker series, and that's one of the reasons we were blessed to have Kurt with us this evening. That normally happens the second Tuesday of each month at 432 Steerland Road, just a few minutes from here at the IFES Portuguese Hall here in Mountain View. But tonight at around 7 o'clock, Kurt will be speaking. And in December, Thomas Fitton, president of Judicial Watch. In January, James Lilacs, American journalist, columnist, and he writes the Athwart column for the National Review magazine. If you'd like more details on what's going on at the forum, you can find them at theconservativeforum.com. And as you could tell from listening to Kurt this evening, there are a lot of things that he does that words are important in, and freedom of speech is a key component of him being able to do what he does, but also for us being able to do what we do, and you being able to live your life freely, to be able to speak your mind. And again, it's not a situation where we all have to agree, but the best conversations and the best solutions come from opposing viewpoints being brought to the forefront and discussed like civil adults to the degree we can. And from that, the best policy, the best society is built. So again, you can track him down at Kurt Schlichter on Twitter. And for us, you can track us down at the Right Side TV at gmail.com if we don't see you first either in person or on the show in the next month or so. I've been your host, Chris Pareja. This has been The Right Side, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Have a great night.